Welcome to the Paranormal Plains, where we share oddities, curiosities, cryptids, and strange stories from the upper Midwest. This is Casey, coming from Twin Cities in Minnesota.
And this is Leslie, recording in North Dakota.
North Dakota! That's your echo. All right, so Leslie, tell me, what kinds of fun oddities, curiosities, cryptids, and or strange stories do you have for me this week?
Today, we're talking about folk art, folk magic, and barns. What's more Midwest than barns?
Tornadoes.
Yeah, tornadoes taking out a barn. All right, well, forget about that, because we're actually going to go start in Pennsylvania.
Oh.
We are starting with hex signs, painted by the Pennsylvania Dutch. Hex signs are circular, geometric designs painted onto barns. I'd recommend listeners Googling them. There's tons of designs. Casey, to you, I have sent a beautiful glossy photo.
Oh, I have a email right here in my inbox that says 1. And oh yeah, these are cool.
Yeah.
These are glossy photos. Okay, so this is really neat. You talk about barns, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I've seen barns. This is different from what I'm used to seeing because they're like round and they're kind of paisley and kind of geometric, but in a way that's not what I'm used to. Because I'm used to seeing the quilt patterns. So these are starburst shapes, like a little bit like compasses, but except they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pointed stars. And some of them are 5, some are 6. But yeah, they're all circled. They're all in circles.
Yep. And we're actually going to come around to barn quilts later. So,
good
catch. You already caught our link here. Good. So as I said, these are painted by the Pennsylvania Dutch. And when we say the Pennsylvania Dutch, that term is just referring to German-speaking settlers from Pennsylvania. So there's a lot of groups that get kind of encompassed in that. They weren't even all from the Netherlands. They're from like all over Europe, but they're culturally Germanic. Mainly, I just wanted to know that this is not Amish people that are painting these designs. Apparently, that gets confused a lot.
Yeah, well, it's like even up here, too, it's like Amish versus Mennonite. You know, everyone's like, it's Amish people. No, that's actually Mennonites.
It's actually Pennsylvania Dutch Lutherans, Baptists, and Presbyterians. So I think people just see like quaint barn decorations and are like, those delightful Amish, you know. So there are two schools of thoughts regarding the original intentions of hex signs. That they're purely decorational or that they're more talismanic. It seems to me that they can be like both. It's like you'd put this up and then just the more superstitious you are, the more like meaning you would ascribe to it. So it is agreed though that there are some superstitions that are associated with certain hex signs, whether you think that most are decorational or not. Hex signs began being painted on barns starting in the 1850s when paint started becoming more inexpensive. You'll find precursors to them on agricultural buildings and like folk art in old Europe. You'll notice from the picture I showed you, a lot of them have star designs. Mm-hmm. Well, originally they were referred to by the Pennsylvania Dutch words for stars or flowers. Stars have religious symbolism, obviously, and celestial activity is also closely tied to farming, so that's probably the origin of that star design. They became known as hex signs in the 1920s when a book called Pennsylvania Beautiful came out. With a sample size of one source, the author published the meaning of these signs was part of an ancient tradition of warding off the machinations of the devil and his sorcerous minions as a kind of spiritual or demonic lightning rod. God, that's cool.
I love it where it's just, it sounds like a tourism thing.
It is! Oh my god, you nailed it. That's exactly what it ended up being.
Oh no.
That author, people don't really think that he just made it up. He was like a reverend. They think that he actually just had a misunderstanding between their two languages. He didn't speak German and this guy was speaking English. Or the author just happened to ask like the Pennsylvania Dutch witch conspiracy guy.
He's trying to make it happen. He wants it to be a thing, so.
Yes! I would love that. Oh, that'd be too funny. He's out back trying to like secretly paint UFO and like anti-witch diagrams on people's barns and they're like shooing him away with a stick.
And then he trips over the guy burying the runestone behind the other tree. Did I get you with that one?
Yes!
Some of those deep cuts.
Olaf. Yeah. Okay. So in reality, reality, they likely had a range of meanings for being put up as a blessing, to commemorate a building, just decoration, lots of reasons. But that's how they became to be called these hex signs in the first place, from the word hexafus, meaning witch's foot.
Oh.
And this is sort of an aside, but this isn't one of the books I read, and I thought it was great. Hexafus was actually this totally different thing in an earlier dialect. It specifically refers to the mark left behind by the presence of a witch and resembles a chicken footprint. But there's actually different words used to describe witch footprints left while in different animal disguises. So, gradafus is a toad's foot, gen's foot is a goose foot, and grabfus is a crow's foot.
Somebody spent a lot of time being super worried about witches turning into other things and walking through their backyard.
Yeah, there was like a lot of weird animal activity where someone was like, that goose is a witch and we're gonna make a word for it.
If I did that every time I went out for a walk and saw deer tracks, I would just run out of words.
But I just sent you a very spooky squash photo,
Oh.
which bears the mark of the hexafus.
Oh.
I'll get it up on Instagram this week, but it looks like an item from Bloodborne.
I mean, yes. And it also looks like there was just a really hungry rabbit or squirrel that was taking some nibbles.
Well, it indicates a witch's curse. So I don't know if that means the squash itself is cursed or the family that grew it.
I have a pumpkin. I have one pumpkin. I think it's a pumpkin.
You think
growing
it's
in
a
my
pumpkin?
it was out of my compost bin. So it could
Oh,
either be
weird.
it could be squash or it could be a pumpkin from last year. And I'm super excited about it because it just kind of came out of nowhere and it's so large. And it had a little nibble taken out of it. But if every time somebody took a little nibble out of one of my squashes or a pumpkin and it was in a pattern, I would just lose my mind because they all have little nibbles taken out of them.
Well, it's not like it's a chunk. I mean, to be fair, it's a shape. It's a chicken's foot.
I mean, it does, to describe it, it's a picture of a squash. It is obviously a very, like, old squash. There is a very deliberate peace sign, but right side up without the circle. Okay, let me get my ye old 1970s
Bring out the old
new
rune
age. Yeah, revival rune book. Actually, when is the copyright of this? 1982. Okay. This is a gift from my mom. It was hers, and she gifted it to me. Oh, it's Algiz again. Right here.
I knew it was one of the runes. I believe it's also a Cahill rune from Bloodborne. I'm trying to find mine.
Oh.
I think it's closest to the hunter's mark.
Well, it is kind of creepy, regardless.
Anyway, I just wanted to show you that cursed squash, because I liked it.
I also appreciate that.
Casey didn't like the cursed squash. I did.
I didn't say that. If you get upset about curses on your squash, you're gonna end up with no squash because they all have nibs. All have been nibbled on.
So in any case, tourist books and media just kind of took off at that Pennsylvania Beautiful book, and tall tales abounded. For example, sometimes if there was an odd number of doors on a barn, they would paint a false one in just to make it look symmetrical. But it became said that it was a devil door, used to cause a flying witch or devil to crash into solid barn where they had thought a door or window was. I know, yeah.
You can't win. Okay, is it wrong that the first thing I thought about was where, in the memory care homes where they paint fake doors?
Wait, what?
In memory care facilities, they will sometimes paint or over doors so people don't go out them and they'll paint fake doors.
What? Are you sure this wasn't a prison, Casey?
I mean, okay. So I've been in a few of them for work. They can't let people wander out, escape, and get hit by cars. So they have to keep them in there.
Maybe it was a witch facility though, Casey.
Oh, this is a home for old witches.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's like you have to have it so that the people working there can still find the fire escape, but you have to disguise it so that the residents don't try to also escape. It's very
weird.
Got stuck in one once where somebody left me and they're like, you can find a way downstairs, and I couldn't get out of the elevator because it was child-proofed, but adult-proofed.
Oh,
but that's also how insulting is that witches can do these terrible things. They're gonna hex us. They're working with the devil. But yeah, they're so stupid they're gonna fly into a door.
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, these were tall tales about the Pennsylvania Dutch. So I'm sure the Pennsylvania Dutch were not thrilled about being portrayed as superstitious idiots. This was all stuff for tourist books. And there was a lot of those. I just thought that one was pretty good. In the 1940s, though, a few guys started making some cash off these tales and made up a few of their own. This is when hex signs became more commercialized, and artists like Jacob Zook and Johnny Ott began producing them for tourists on wooden discs. You could buy them with simplistic, predefined meanings like fertility, love and romance, success, and these were made as painted spells. So they were created very much with the intention of being talismans and charms for tourists, but you know. And they encouraged these tales for the business.
When we go and we like pick out different crystals because they have different meanings. I should probably not say that. That's too offensive.
Yeah, don't offend our crystal fans.
That's too offensive to the current New Age meta. This just sounds like New Age stuff, but just back in the day. Instead of the exotic Eastern religions, it's just farmers that are like super mysterious because they don't speak English yet. Buy our enchanted coasters.
Well, yeah, though this does have the background of being a cultural folk art from the Pennsylvania Dutch. So it isn't just like, here are some rocks we found. They're magic. You know, it's not exactly that. Yeah. So
you are buying something that has value other than just
right, because also people will buy these and just because they like them, you know, and they think they're, because it is beautiful folk art as well. So like I was saying, you know, you would buy it and put it up, and how much meaning you ascribe to it is just how superstitious you are. You might be like, yeah, okay, that's not gonna bring me prosperity, but I like it, so I'm gonna put it up, you know, or just for fun, like, oh yeah, it's gonna bring me luck, sure. Mm-hmm. You know, why not? Can't hurt. There was one rumor that was spread, and I thought it was really funny. It was a hex sign that Ott painted to bring rain and fertility, and this story goes that it was left outdoors for too long by the customer, and it caused this massive flood of the Delaware River in 1958.
Oops.
Yeah, it was a real good one. It was a potent one. So the marketing of these commercial signs is really what like cemented their meaning as talismans, both within and outside the Pennsylvania Dutch population. That's, I'm sure, still in the Pennsylvania Dutch community, you know, they still will hang them up just also for their aesthetic value. Let's go into some of those meanings now. Oh. Starting with the different star shapes. A rosette, which is a 6-pointed star, is supposed to chase bad luck from the place it's displayed, either home, farm, or business. A double rosette, 12-pointed star, is a sign for the calendar. It relates to time, year, and eternity. A 4-pointed wheel of the sun symbolizes warmth and fertility, often used as a sign of prosperity and good luck. The 8-pointed star is also a symbol of luck and good fortune. The color meanings are pretty much what you would assume. Yellow represents happiness and friendship, blue symbolizes peace, but they can also be associated with planets. Brown is with the Earth, orange with Jupiter, and white with the moon. And then commonly used designs had meaning as well, such as the raindrop encourages rainfall, the oak leaf symbolizes strength, wheat for abundance. So my interest in hex signs started this spring when I took a virtual class called Hex Signs for Healing and Protection. It was through a store and artist residency in Minneapolis called The Future. We've been there before, Casey.
Yes, we have.
And the class was all about creating your own hex signs as a painted prayer. It was creating these talismans for folk magic. So don't talk too much shit, Casey, because people are still doing this.
I'll edit those parts out.
I really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the humor and irony of these signs that were supposedly used to keep witches out is basically being reclaimed by people who identify as witches or neo-pagans in the 21st century.
I love that.
I love the idea of a witch making a design to keep out a Pennsylvania Dutch person.
I have one of those on my door. It says no soliciting.
So if you're interested in all this and you would like to try doing one, either as a superstitious thing or just you would like to try doing this kind of folk art, check out a book called Hex and Spell Work by Carl Hare. Sorry for all these pronunciations, by the way. It tells you everything you need to draw them out, and it also goes into more of the Pennsylvania Dutch folk magic practice, which is called powwow. Have you ever heard anything about that?
I haven't, but I'm trying to like reconcile my preconceived notion of Pennsylvania Dutch.
It's very interesting. It's actually all entwined with Christianity.
Okay.
Check out that book if it's your thing. Not sponsored. Not sponsored. So with that background, Casey, get back in the car. We're going to the Midwest.
Yay! I'm going to get my snacks. I'm going to get so many snacks, and we're never stopping for the bathroom. We're going to make it all the way, and you can pee in the field if you need to.
So although these hex signs have become a classic New England site, they can be found in the Midwest. The Pennsylvania Dutch spread throughout the U.S. in the 18th and 19th centuries. But a far more common sight, you said it earlier, is the barn quilt.
Yay!
I think you actually even offhandedly mentioned it in an earlier episode too.
Oh.
Just because they're really just everywhere.
I don't want to give like too much information away, but it's just one of the places where I inspect was like settled by Swedes. And part of their city aesthetic is that their businesses have barn quilts on them too.
Yes, you hit upon, it's a quilt trail probably. We're going to talk about those too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't know what we're talking about, you haven't seen these before. They're squares that are hung up usually on barns, but as we were just saying earlier, because these quilt trails started going up and not everyone has a barn, they're also put on like sheds, houses, buildings, garages, other places as well. And it is painted with a single quilt block design. And I think it's easy to see the similarities between the barn quilts and the hex signs. Hex signs, their stars are very geometric and they look very similar to these barn quilts. Patterns in hex designs were also used in the quilts of the Pennsylvania Dutch, and barn star designs are used in quilt patterns. It's like the same kind of imagery. And just in general, they both spotlight agricultural heritage. It's just like in different parts of the country. There's a recent spike in barn quilt popularity starting in the early 2000s, and they became popular in what we were just saying, the form of quilt trails. And yeah, they generate tourism in rural areas because people come through to take photographs. And Casey, you will not be surprised by this, but my mom is a huge quilter, and so there's even one on my parents' shed. Yeah, I asked her about the pattern she chose, and she said it's the Mariner's Compass block, and she chose it because it's one that she's always wanted to do in a quilt and hasn't yet.
I adore this idea of our mothers being accidental witches because they're quilting intention and design.
Yeah, people put these up for all kinds of reasons, just like the hex signs. A lot of times it's a way to honor a loved one, just decoration, as charms or for their symbolic meanings, or as a representation of the family, using a block from a family quilt that's been passed down. I like that.
I like that too. It's kind of like the Scottish where each clan had their own pattern. Yeah, that's cool.
That's exactly what I noted. It's like a Midwest tartan. Isn't that funny?
I love that. There's
yeah.
But it's just like that connection to how many generations passed. I want to do a past life regression and find out what my quilt pattern is.
Oh my god, you do like a past life regression and you like flash back to you dying under a quilt pattern that you laying in bed under this beautiful quilt.
But then I know what pattern it is and I can know what to put on the side of the house I'll never own.
Yep, there you go. There are a lot of barn quilt trails all over the Midwest. The largest one in the U.S. is in Shawano County, Wisconsin. And there are over 300 barn quilts.
They're dedicated.
In this county. Yeah, they really wanted to get this project going. They published a book with photos, locations, and little blurbs about each design and the farm's history.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really interesting. I love this as another way to just preserve so much about these farms and like the area, the history of, because it even says what kind of cows they had, who owned the farm for this long, who homesteaded it. But it's pretty short. It's not exactly, it's not a novel.
Right.
So I'm going to read you a couple of the blurbs that I thought were particularly good. I'm going to leave out names though. So one farm's pattern was called Gamma Ray Burst, with the explanation that its owner worked for 30 years for the Los Alamos National Lab in New Mexico, where the atomic bomb was developed. Yes. He was responsible for gamma ray detectors intended to detect nuclear bursts.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, so the pattern on that barn, it kind of looks like a ray expanding outward.
That's cool. So did he just retire to like a hobby farm?
Yeah, I guess. It didn't really say anything. It just kind of said that that's what he had done for 30 years. So, and then he must have come out here. There was another one in that book that was kind of funny. It had a horse on it. And the lady said that she had always wanted a horse, but she had never gotten to have one. So she said, this is the closest I'm going to get.
Oh, that's like cute, but also sad.
The owner who sponsored another barn quilt is known as the Cannon Man. He has long been interested in the history of the Civil War and sponsored the quilt in honor of his great-grandfather who fought in the Civil War. He has a collection of memorabilia along with several cannons.
God.
He has fired cannons to signal the start of various events throughout the area and even fired one when the quilt was put up on the barn.
Aw, yay!
Which was built in 1908.
There are some really eccentric people out here.
Yes,
I love
yeah.
it.
I wrote down some ones that just had like some really interesting stories and some characters. Another barn was owned by a couple who had met when the wife put an ad in Hoard's Dairyman, must have been like an agricultural magazine,
Uh-huh.
in 1983, saying she was looking for a husband. She got 20 inquiries. One was from her current husband,
Aw.
who she married 3 years later.
Oh,
Isn't that cute?
that's super
I
cute.
feel like that's a Hallmark movie waiting to happen.
Okay. Don't give them any more ideas. Or maybe give them ideas, because I think,
TM, TM,
yeah,
TM.
most of their ideas I think are kind of outplayed. But no, that reminds me of when I was a kid, and the Grand Forks Herald still had classifieds. And I think I was
Mm.
in grade school and I was, I'm going to read these, right? There was one of this guy, and I remember it. It was like, farmer looking for a neat, sweet, and petite wife, or like neat, sweet, petite something to someday be my wife. But it rhymed. The whole thing rhymed.
Oh, damn.
So yeah, I was like really, oh, looking for like a neat, sweet, petite wife with somebody to share my life or something like that. It was,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's a really unconventional, like even then that was kind of like a, but if it works for people.
Yeah, it's really good, though. I mean, you remembered it like, what, 15 years later? So that's a real good ad.
Longer. God, I think it was closer to like 20-ish years later. Yeah. Uh, I remember the one, also the other one I remember, unrelated, was it was like a woman seeking woman one, and it was like, I enjoy mountains at sunset and the beach. And I was like, there ain't no mountains or fucking beaches in North Dakota. I don't know what you're
What
doing here.
mountains are you enjoying? Oh my god, funny.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
you going up to a river? Like, I just remember being so confused. I was only like, I mean, I was like 10 or 11,
That's
being like,
really
what the hell?
funny. Yeah, like, woman seeking to move.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. Like, let's get the hell out of here. No, but
Yeah.
back to your barn quilt connection. Is that or the version of Tinder where you get 20 letters just stuffed out of your mailbox and you don't know what to do with them all?
Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I love that though, the idea of just going onto your mailbox.
Yeah, like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like coming out the side, blowing away in the wind. Yeah.
It's just like, or it's like Harry Potter when he gets all the wizard letters and he's like blow open the door. Single woman looking to be my wife. Farmers from all around deluge with letters.
Oh my god, how funny. Oh,
But I'm happy that of those 20 letters, there was a winner for her. That's good.
yes. I'm just picturing all these letters coming flooding in through the fireplace and junk. Oh, what a visual. All right. And one last one. They just had this at the end of theirs, and I'm like so obsessed with finding out what this means. It says, a unique feature of the beautiful farmstead is its roadside shrine, along with several other religious shrines on the barn and house. Quote, the shrines are like cherished memories of the simple religious life of the people from our homeland. And I want to know, I mean, I know, I'm sure it's just like a thing for Mary, but like, shrines to who? Shrines to who?
Yeah.
You think there's like a Thor shrine out there?
Are they just nativity scenes that they didn't take down? They kind of fell apart, so then the next year they just put a different one up.
Oh my god, I know. See, it's like I'm so in love with this idea. Can't go look because if I do, it's gonna be not as good as I picture.
I mean, we can always just go on Google Earth and just zoom in on it.
Oh, girl, I tried already. You know, these places are so rural that they don't even have the street cam.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Oh, I mean, good for them because I'm sure people want their privacy. But
I did
yeah.
try, yeah.
Oh, that's
Right.
yeah, like
Right.
shrines to what?
I know. So yeah, a lot of interesting characters and stories in that book. It was pretty good.
I love it.
So I just wanted to say to people listening, if you find you're within a couple hours of one of these Midwest trails and you're dying to get out, this would be a great fall activity for 2020.
I like it.
And I mean, you're really just driving around in your car. You're not going to be in contact with anyone. Just look at the leaves, the nice
Yeah, I love it.
barns,
Take some selfies
some
with the
photos,
barn squares.
spend some money in rural areas.
Yeah, stimulate the economies. I did take a cute picture of the new White Bear Lake water tower. It's super adorable. It's got a little bear peeking out over the top. He's like smiling.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
cute!
I'll send that to Remember Old Smiley
Yeah.
in Grand Forks? It's like that, where it's just the water tower is the cultural epicenter of the rural community, and at the side of the barn is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same way.
For people who don't live in Grand Forks, they used water tower with like a smiley face painted on it, and it was called Old Smiley, and everyone was real upset when they took it down.
Big. I remember they had like the shirts that said like Save Smiley and on it, and the city's like, we don't hate it, we just don't have $80,000 to keep it from collapsing and killing people.
I know.
Now I made
poor
myself
Smiley.
sad thinking about Old Smiley.
Old Smiley. How was your week, Casey?
My week, I do. Okay, so I went camping. We had a week where I didn't see you. Missed your face. I went camping, and so I was telling some of our spooky stories from the show, and I freaked my roommates out, and they were like, "No more spooky stories."
Which one got him? The runestone?
No, I didn't even get to that. I think I only got through the Marshall UFO incident, and they didn't want to hear anymore.
Okay, well that's actually
Kind of spooky.
Yeah,
it could have just been me being a terrible storyteller too, and they could have just got sick of me talking. Like they're stuck in a room with me all the time, and then we go and get stuck in a yurt. But it was good. I actually had a lot of fun. But they had in the yurt, they had this cool, like, it was a little journal. So it was like people who stayed there could write and leave little messages for everybody. And so, we were paging through, and there's a bunch of cute stuff from kids being like, this is a drawing of me and my sister eating PB&Js.
Oh, nice.
And there was this one that just got me. 4 people, and 3 people standing and 1 person on their hands and knees, like, in front of them, and it said, our poly family loved this yurt. And so it was like,
Wow.
somebody's polycule. Yeah. And they had put their names on it, and so the guy crouching down in front of everyone's name was Gary. And so we were like, the whole time we were camping, we were like, oh, the spirit of Gary, like, he's here with us. He's living his best life. But no, I have the spooky story I have been waiting to tell all that week and all this week. Okay, because this is like ultimate. So this city, it's
Yeah,
right?
I know which one
Yep.
you're talking about. Yeah.
And so I did their inspection, and like the lady there was like super nice, and there's just a couple guys just sitting around having some lunch, and a really basic bar, just like the bar, and they have some frozen pizzas and stuff. It's like an old building. So I go down into the basement, and they've got like this old basement, and they have like a freezer down there where they keep the pizzas. And I'm like, okay, any spooky things down here? And the lady just turns, and she grabs from the top of this stack, like it's ready to go. She pulls out this picture, and she's like, take a look at this. And I'm like, oh my god, I get a ghost story.
I thought you were gonna say a body.
If you go in this freezer.
Yeah, that's what. The Minnesota Iceman returns.
No! God, he's in a keg cooler in the bottom of a municipal liquor store. So this lady pulls out this picture, and yes, these people in front of the camera being goofy. One of them slipping the camera off. There's like 4 people. And then she shows me a second photo, and she said this was taken just like a second after it was like, someone was hitting the take button a couple times. Yeah. And in between 2 people, there is a blur, and somebody's in the photo and then also has a red hat. And she was like, there was a bar patron who, like, a regular who passed away, and he would always wear the same hat, and he was like a real prankster.
Wow.
So there's this photo of this spooky apparition behind it. It looks like somebody's walking past, but the lady was like, nobody walked past. Like, I took this photo, there was nobody walking past.
Was it a digital camera, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was like a cell phone camera.
Okay.
Yep. And so she had printed it off and blown it up, not huge, but I mean like for a printer page, so she could keep it there to show people, I suppose, because it was like so cool and such a good story. And so she leaves the back room because she has to go watch the register, and so I'm like, I'm gonna take a picture of this picture because she set it out. I'm like, I'm gonna do this.
I thought you were gonna say you were gonna do an EVP session while she was gone.
No. But I'm like, I'm gonna take a photo because I want Leslie to see this, because describing it is not gonna be good enough. All right, so she had set it down, so I'm like, I'll take a quick pic. I take a picture, and then all of a sudden, the ice machine next to me goes, and I'm like, oh my god! So I delete the picture, and I get the out of there. Oops, I pissed off the spirit, because I was taking the photo, and I'm like, I really hope the ghost of this guy isn't lurking and gets mad that I'm taking this photo for like a silly podcast that he probably like would hate. And then I mean, it's just the ice falling, but it was super loud. It was like banging, and I'm like, nope, 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 nope. I'm gonna delete it.
Yeah, perfectly timed.
So I deleted it because I'm like, I'm not messing around with this.
That's crazy, though.
Yeah, so that was my super spooky ghost story. Yep.
I like that. It's crazy how so many places have these different experiences or stories to tell, especially like this woman had hers on hand.
She was like ready to go with it, which I thought was so cool, but also I'm like, this is serendipitous. This is just made for the show. So
yeah,
I was meant to be here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I rolled my pants when the ice fell out of the ice machine. So I was just...
Pretty in keeping with the theme of this episode, my week has been pretty pastoral, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I've been harvesting the last of my veggies and stuff, so I've been eating zucchini bread and sun-drying tomatoes. There's like tomatoes and peppers in all my windows. That's what I'm doing. It's very, very fall at time activity.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my last crop of tomatoes to ripen, but it's been really cold lately, so I think they're kind of unhappy. Have you had any witch's foot signs on any of your vegetation?
No, unfortunately. I'd sell it on eBay if I did.
Oh, you haven't been visited?
No.
So how big did your peppers get?
I mean, probably like the size of my hand. I mean, huge, really.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. Every time I've grown peppers, I've always just had one giant pepper,
really?
And that's it.
It's really weird because the bush is pretty small and the peppers are just enormous. I don't know how it's standing upright.
But you gotta go rescue them?
Yep, I gotta go tuck them in.
Because of the
frost. We have a frost warning, so that's gonna be our episode. You can follow us on YouTube for new episodes and on Instagram, where I'll be posting that cursed squash image. We are there at Paranormal Planes.
Yeah, and we've got a totally basic and just token Twitter account because I abhor social media at ParaPlanesPod at Twitter.
Catch you next time.
Bye! Perfect.
That was a long one.